Hello, I'm Jim Lane, Mayor of the City of Scottsdale. Today we're here discussing an important topic, the 2020 Census. And I'm joined by Tammy Parise, Partnership Coordinator for the U.S. Census Bureau. And Tammy's based here in Arizona, and her mission is to engage a wide spectrum of community organizations, local governments, congressional districts, and nonprofits in the 2020 Census. So she's here today to discuss the purpose and importance of the national census. Hi, Tammy. Welcome here, and it's nice to have you with us here.
Yes, it's so good to be here, Mayor. Thank you for inviting us.
Well, it is, and it's an important topic, and it's certainly one we want to make sure we have some great communication with our population in view of the circumstances of the importance of it to the city and to the state and to the country on the overall. You know, I think a lot of people do understand exactly the origins of some of what we do here on every decade period of time, even though a decade gives us plenty of time to forget as to the importance of it and that. But the census is a constitutionally required count of each of the residents of each state and the territories in the U.S. every 10 years. And the Constitution intent is to determine the prospective voting strength of the individual states for the allocation of their seats to the House of Representatives and the number of electoral college votes. And while that purpose continues, it has come to be an essential component in the per capita distribution of certain program funding allocation. And thus, it becomes a very important function for our city and our state's financial viability and be able to take care of the things and the people that are here within the state. So again, Tammy, thanks very much. It's nice to have you here in this important one. I wonder if you could start out by just giving us a brief background of the census from your perspective and the organization and your role, maybe expanded upon a little bit of what you've been doing and how we're getting to the point that we're at right now.
Yes, so the Decennial Census, sir, you gave me a great platform to really jump off there. But it is a constitutionally mandated activity, which occurs once every 10 years, and that happens on the 10s, 2010, 2030, and right now in 2020. And that constitutional mandate of counting everyone in the United States is something the Census Bureau has been doing since 1790. We are experts at doing this, and we are right in the middle of the 2020 census and nearing the end, honestly. So we are encouraging households to respond and respond now. We already have census takers on the ground going door to door from those households we haven't heard from yet. And so thank you for the opportunity to talk more about this today on your show.
Excellent. And you know, it's interesting because it has been hundreds of years now, of course, 200 plus years that we've been involved in this, but things have changed somewhat dramatically with regard to how we go about it, as we maybe exemplified this year and maybe more than any other time, but also what the census is used for on an expanding basis. You know, the self-response rate at last count for the state of Arizona was about 64%. And what exactly, when we think about that, the national average, I understand, I should say for Scottsdale, and the national and the state averages are actually a little less than that. But what kind of impact does this have on Scottsdale being at this rate, if in fact it's reflective of a non-response rate that should otherwise be responding?
Sure, but I want to say first and foremost that Scottsdale is responding quite well. We are, as of yesterday, you were at 63.9, so we are hovering that 64% self-response. Those are Scottsdale residents who know that the census is important. They have responded to the call for action, whether they responded online, via the phone, or by the paper questionnaire from many households. So congratulations on that rate. That is an impressive rate, and we do certainly still have a little bit of work to do in Scottsdale, and this conversation today hopefully will spark some increased response. And really, what's at stake here is hundreds of billions of dollars are allocated based on census data. We are talking over $675 billion. And those are for emergency services, hospitals, roads, transportation, the social services that many community members use. And so that's really what's at stake and what we need Scottsdale residents to recognize and know that it is very important to respond to the census.
Oh, well, that number that you talk about, the 600 uh, plus billion dollars, that's allocated across all states on the basis of their population within their individual states, as is the allocation of the House seats, House of Representative seats. But that is a substantial number. There isn't any doubt. Now, when we talk about self-responding, by all the mechanisms that you were talking about there, it includes some new forms of responding, online and that. And that had been an early concern as to whether or not some of the people who were used to receiving a paper form every year just coming to their household, and they would be able to respond to it. In some instances, and there was at least some concern as to whether or not that was going to be an obstacle to some. Have you found that or gotten any sense for that? And I'm glad to hear we're doing well. I mean, so I'm glad to hear that as a start. But nevertheless, there's probably still some that may be out there and not working with it within the new system as well as might be expected. But have you seen any of that?
Well, we're certainly proud of the advancements from one census to the next, and 2020 census is groundbreaking. This was the first time in history that respondents could choose one of three methods, and the online response has been incredible. It's actually above the projection, so we're very proud about that. In terms of households that haven't yet responded, we have sent them multiple mailings, and perhaps they just need a nudge, a conversation just like you and I are having today to remind them just how important the census data is. We're talking about federal funding and our House of Representatives congressional voice. So we're actually pleased with how Scottsdale's responding and so proud to have offered three methods of response.
Well,
But
just
it's
a,
time for action.
well, it's good, and I'm glad to hear it positively coming from you. And I would just be one to just say that, as an old guy, who generally speaking, I think I'm pretty adaptable to some of the what's out there. But I did find going online as a very easy approach to it. It was easy to navigate. There wasn't really any question about it, and so. And from that standpoint, I'll just throw in an additional one. If you've got any fear of that, get over it, because I think they've done a great job. You've done a great job with the way that's been put together. So
Well, thank you for that.
well, and one basic question on this: when we talk about all the households are touched upon, there's something is sent to each household, a notice of these three options as you're talking about. Now, there undoubtedly are people who have moved. There are undoubtedly people who are in the city of Scottsdale for sure, who are maybe their second home, so they're not residents. Are they required to respond, or do you consider it a non-response? Well, can they send the form back and say, I'm not, this is not my primary residence, or some other such message that might preclude them from filling it out?
Mayor, great question. Yes, if the Scottsdale community, if there are winter visitors, people that aren't living in Scottsdale as of April 1st, because the census count is of that reference day, April 1st, please do fill out the questionnaire and simply record, this is not my normal residence. And so it is important for the Census Bureau to get a response for each and every address in America, even if no one is living there. So fill that out and just clarify. The actual online website will walk you through. If you did not live at a particular address on April 1st, it will say, it'll record what it needs to, and the questionnaire will be over at that point. So very easy to respond, even if you have two households We'd like to have an answer from every address in America, and we will
Okay.
work to get that done.
That is interesting. I mean, I do have another household, if you will, but I don't know that I ever received anything at that location. But nevertheless, it's not. But it does have a mailing address. But that's interesting. But in any case, so when those come back, they're not considered a non-response. They're considered a response.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So when we talk about the nearly 64%, it may include some of those particular individuals. I
Yes,
mean, yeah, that's not
absolutely.
their primary residence. Well, good point, and certainly nothing in that is to tell anybody that if they get a form, take a look at it, fill it out honestly and correctly, and send it back in. Because
Absolutely. Responding to the census is protected. It's 100% confidential. It's protected by Title 13 of the United States Code. We do not share information except for in statistical format. So it is easy, safe, and important, and it's time to respond today.
now we had a small, well, we had an increase, an extension of the time, um, probably a pandemic-related kind of thing, and I know it's been adjusted back a little bit, but there's been some additional time, the net amount of additional time. Uh, with everybody, at least during shutdown periods of time, and some of that did correspond to that April 1st date. Some people, and I think you may have already answered this, some people may have found themselves here in Scottsdale, but they wouldn't have been here otherwise. They decided to stay here in a shutdown period rather than maybe somewhere else. But in any case, I think the answer clearly was if they got one at the residence here to respond, that this isn't their normal one, and that they eventually would get the other one at their normal residence.
Yes, our questionnaire is very clear. It actually walks a residents through exactly how to respond. The questions are phrased in a way to make it very easily understood. But yes, we need a response from every address in America. And April 1st is that reference day. So if people found themselves in Scottsdale, again, the questionnaire, our residency rules and the questionnaire will say, is this your normal place of residence as of April 1st? So I think Scottsdale residents who've not yet responded, and if they're holding back because they have those sorts of questions, it is time to get on your computer, get out your cell phone, respond, and you're going to find that it is remarkably easy. My questionnaire took 5 minutes. I was pleasantly surprised myself.
Well, very good. You know, there was, you sort of addressed this, maybe a misconception that I had personally, but in the Scottsdale responses in 2010, 10 years ago, of course, we were at 73%. And of course, this time there's maybe been a little bit more time and maybe a more convenient way to respond. And now I know we've got till September 30th in any case, and that was a final number. We may be clicking up, and with this interview, maybe we'll click it up even a little bit faster. But nevertheless, is there any trend nationally that would sort of reflect a lesser response rate given the same amount of time, or are we on a similar line here? If we're at 64, we have till the end of September. Now, I realize with that change in timing in that, is it not fairly likelihood or the fairly good likelihood that we'll be able to get to somewhere closer to where we were when we completed it 10 years ago?
Well, we certainly believe that Scottsdale has the capability to reach their 2010 response rate. But what I do want to say that's really important for our conversation today is the 2020 responses that you see and the percentage that you're seeing is based on 2020 planned boundaries. So we're not comparing apples to apples. So be careful in the comparison of 2010 to 2020. We're doing things much smarter in 2020, and we had that enhanced 3 methods of response. So it's not indicative of a problem necessarily. It's just that we're using 2020 proposed boundaries. So that's why you may see a variance in 2010 to today. But I have the full confidence of you, the mayor, and the people that are living in Scottsdale that they will respond to the census and you'll surpass that 2010 response. But I also want you to know that if you only attain 70% self-response, the census will make up the other 30%. We always get to 100% collection of our data. That is our responsibility, our commitment to America. That is founded in truth, and you can rest on that, sir. We make up the difference in any lack of self-response with our
Well,
enumeration.
and that's actually was a you've you've got ahead of me a little bit on that because that was actually a question of mine. I feel I'm fairly well informed when we talk about these percentages. I wonder, is there some adjustment? There's really not an artificial adjustment. You're saying you get 100% response one way or the other, whether it's determined that there's not anybody there or there's someone got confused about a second home status or otherwise, so in any case, this trending is certainly, there may be some differences as far as our self-responding issues, but this trending isn't even that far off of this, given the time that we have remain to get this done as well. I mean, we'd probably
Absolutely.
at least get in the same area of things. So that's an important one for sure. You know, when we think about what we're really trying to do here, and that's to get the word out, and we hope to be able to distribute this interview and be able to inform people of it, more than anything else, what we talked about earlier, and that's what's at stake. Certainly, we want proper electoral college and House representative for our state. That's an important component for us. And certainly with 675, and I might have that number a little bit off, but $1 billion to be distributed. That is an immense issue when we have an absolute obligation to fund the kinds of things that those are intended to fund, and if we somehow or other are trying to do it for more people than we actually have received or been counted in the census, that would be detrimental to us. Now, with your guarantee, what we're really trying to accomplish here is to make this as smooth and as quick as possible. The further we get along in self-response, which is what we really should be doing for ourselves and for the nation, the easier it comes to be able to get to an absolute 100% number. And maybe with a greater sense of accuracy, even with elements that you might employ to get that 100% number. So that's an important point, I suppose, that in the fact that we're going to get 100% one way or the other, but the best way for us to get it is with the self-response. It's something we need to be doing for ourselves and for our state and for our country, and so that's what our obligation is, and that's what we should be doing. And so we don't want to go short on that, even though I'm sure the Census Bureau, with your leadership and others, will get us to the number we need to be ultimately anyhow. Well, listen, I'd just like to say thank you again, Tammy, for taking the time. And I hope these residents of Scottsdale here who have not responded, think again on it and get to it and get the response on it. They do have till September 30th to make sure it gets done, and we hope that we are there because we want to be accurately portrayed politically in our system, and we also want that an accurate and an appropriate and proper number of money that should be distributed to us on the basis of our population. So those are all good things. Tammy, can I ask you, is there anything you'd like to conclude with as far as today's discussion has been?
Yes, the time for action is now. With September 30th, it's not that many days away, and it's so simple to respond to the 2020 census. So we encourage the residents of Scottsdale to get busy. Get on your phone, take 5 minutes, and it's time to start having a conversation about it. For the residents that have responded, it's time to talk about the 2020 census on your social media and your circle of friendships, your friends, your families, your business associates, your coworkers. Start a conversation. Let your friends and family know it is easy, safe, and important, and time is of the essence. Do it now before a census taker comes to your door and knocks on your door to collect the information that way. So let's be proactive, Scottsdale. We know you can do it.
Yeah.
You've already proven you can.
Well put, Tammy. Absolutely. And I know we're capable of it, and I know as citizens here want to do the right thing as far as this is concerned. So it's a great message. Hey, one thing, and it just occurred to me as you're saying it, is there some easy way? Let's just say that they're stuck at home and somehow or other, and maybe they've quarantined themselves or otherwise, and they don't have a place to find. What's the easiest way to find out who to call? Look it up on their internet at the 2020census.gov, as you've got indicated in your background there, or a phone number or otherwise. Is that site give them all the information? Let's just say their form got waylaid, and now, on the basis of your call and mine, do it now. Don't wait another day, because you'll be just that further down the road, and you'll be just that far removed from it mentally. So is it fair to say 2020census.gov is the way to go?
That is absolutely the way to go. Anyone can grab their cell phone or hop on their computer. If you go to 2020census.gov, it will be clear that you can respond now right at that website, and all will be well.
All right, very good. Very good. Absolutely. Hey, that worked out pretty well.
I don't know how perfect that was, but the trash man is here. Certainly thankful that they are out and about picking up the trash.
Yeah.
But timing was perfect, I guess, as you said.
Yes.
Hope you can edit that out.
Well, we'll be fine with or without. It always adds a little bit of human touch on it. But hey, Tammy, thank you very much. It was a delight to talk with you on this, and great to have you take the time to encourage us all to do our census forms.
Perfect. Mayor, it's been a pleasure being with you today, and I do just want to thank you and your city staff personally. Kelly, the Complete Count Committee of Scottsdale, I know a lot of work has gone into really informing the residents and encouraging them to respond. So hats off to you and your Complete Count Committee in the city of Scottsdale there. I trained you and your staff a while back, so I certainly remember the faces and the heart of people that are working on this. So thank you for your time today, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tammy.